Hi, everyone. My name is Mira, and I'm a vice president in technology and society here at Google. We have been working with many filmmakers to create Flow, a new AI tool that we announced this week at Google I/O. And these incredible filmmakers have been instrumental in helping us shape Flow. We're going to hear from them today about their process, the films that they made. But first, before we do, we have a short video for you guys to see, a little bit of behind the scenes on our collaboration.
I have been creating for as long as I can remember. I tend to go towards stories which might be a bit more dark sometimes. Mainly is because I have the feeling that there's a lot more to say.
I grew up watching the Michael Bays and the Ridley Scotts, and I always wanted to do big set pieces. And as you start your career as a director in Hollywood, you don't get to make those kind of movies right away.
My style is real futuristic and hyper modern. The reason why I love AI filmmaking so much is that it can bring all kinds of my weird ideas to life instantly.
I think in terms of visual first. The film I'm making right now is more of an introspective journey, a note to creativity. How as a creator, how do I get started and how do I accept who I am?
I kind of made a name for myself in the AI community, being one of the first that were doing super cinematic visuals. The short film I'm making is about two adopted brothers who have been globetrotting the world as international hitmen.
The title of my film is called Dear Stranger. It's a belated love letter to my grandmother.
For the first time in my life, I feel like I can make any film that I want to.
Amazing. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I thought maybe we could start with introductions and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Dave Clark. I'm also the co-founder and chief creative officer of Promise Studios, and I'm also a full-time filmmaker when I'm not running the studio. But yeah, a little bit about my background. I started off in advertising, but I actually studied film at Pratt Institute. So my whole life was kind of been centered around becoming a filmmaker. So I started becoming a writer, turned director, and did commercials, short films, and now into feature films. And yeah, excited to be here.
Amazing. Junie?
Hello, I'm Junie. I'm an AI filmmaker and production designer in fashion film, music video, and commercial. For my past few years, I have been doing research about digital identity and digital humanity. I love keep pushing the boundary of storytelling.
Henry.
And hello, my name is Henry. You can hear from the accent, I'm not from here. I'm from Belgium, so I speak French. I'm currently Global VP of Creative Innovation and Design for a digital agency called Depth. And then lately and actually for the last 3 years, I've been spending a pretty extensive amount of time using AI tools. And I've been an artist for as long as I can remember. So this is great to be here.
I love that. I was wondering if you guys could each share a little bit about the films that you made. They're such deeply personal stories in some cases, and in others, you're really pushing the boundaries. So maybe, Dave, why don't you first talk about your film and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, for me, what's exciting is, I always want to tell big stories, big set pieces, big action pieces. I kind of grew up watching the Ridley Scotts and the James Camerons, and the film is personal to me. It's about two adopted brothers, and it actually goes back to my childhood growing up with a childhood friend of mine he was actually white, and I'm actually half Korean and half black, but everyone thought we were brothers because of everything that we were into. We were into the same type of movies, same type of sports, and I thought it'd be fun to put a film together. It's actually about two international hitmen, which I am not, but if two adopted brothers were to go their own separate ways, but they still find themselves back in the same world, in the same journey, I thought that was an interesting narrative to tell. And then obviously with using something like Flow, be able to tell it on a big stage with big set pieces and action.
Yeah. And Junie, how about yours? It was such a poetic piece of work. What's the inspiration behind it?
The inspiration behind my film is the relationship between my grandmother and myself. And my grandmother passed away 5 years ago. But when she was alive, I didn't express my love to her enough. So this film also serves as a belated love letter from me to her.
Oh, and what about you, Henry? What's the inspiration?
Yeah, actually, it's a little similar to Junie. It's more of a film which is dedicated to my parents. Growing up, not being in a place which is really tech savvy and still growing up with movies and like comic books and video games and whatnot. I was lucky enough to have the support of my parents, who always made sure I had all the chances to just create and get that creative outlet in any different way. And so they both passed away, similar to Junie. So my mom 13 years ago, my dad 4 years ago. And so obviously I know they would be happy to see this right now and like kept going. And so I wanted to create a film which is more personal, which is not eating my own story as a creator, but also kind of giving them back this, this feedback that things are right, but also that hopefully it can inspire new generations of creators to start their own thing.
Yeah, I love that. So maybe let's get into the meat of it. Let's talk about flow and how you've been using it. Maybe Junie, how about you start by just sharing with us, what does your actual workflow look like? And how do you take something from the beginning of an idea to your finished product?
I would say actually I didn't see flow as a tool. I see it more as a collaborator that I have the conversation with, because when I have conversation with Flo, every conversation just more inspire me to taking the next step, because I just keep having different kinds of ideas on my mind, and I can keep experimenting with it, and it just give me feedback instantly.
I love that. Is that what it's like for you as well?
It just feels like possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
As a storyteller, we have so many ideas we've been developing for our whole entire careers. Most of the time, you can't bring them to life and or even visualize even a single image.
Right.
But with Flow, not only are you able to access tools like Imagen with for images, but you can also now bring those into motion and start to tell some of these stories. And like a lot of other filmmakers who probably came up like me have big stories. And I got my career started early in Hollywood, and I wanted to tell certain types of stories. But when you're new, you don't really have that opportunity. But I feel like with tools like Flow, you can now not only put those stories to life and bring them to life in really big, imaginable ways, and also if you're out there talking to executives and studios in Hollywood, you're able to visualize your film in major ways, much like we saw with Darren.
Are you using a traditional script, or what does your process look like?
Yeah, so I'm actually I'm a natural born writer, so yeah. I enjoy the screenwriting process. I enjoyed even more working with something like Gemini as a thought partner.
Yep.
It just helps get ideas out there. It helps you make sure that you're staying on, beats and stories and things like that. So being able to use a tool that's part of Flow and be able to see different beats of your story and then actually visualize that, you're able to kind of create this really interesting dynamic between filmmaker and your art, which is something that it's a really exciting time to be alive. And I try to tell filmmakers who are new to AI and they're experimenting with it for the first time, it's dream big and dream anything. And then you can honestly put pictures to your films.
You can do that right now. Yeah. Henry, what does your process look like?
I think it's a little bit similar to what Dave explained. I love the idea that AI enables me to directly translate whatever I have in my mind in a visual way and then be able to bounce back, right? Like normally when you have to create a film, you're going to make choices and it might be that your choices are not right. Like you just had something in mind and come back the way you want it to be. And so I think what's been great with Flow is that this translation from what I have in my mind to looking at it has been extremely short. And in return, it means that I can start iterating and be like, oh, actually, this would be better. And there's a lot of, co-creation process. I think anyone using AI is going to mention co-creation as something which, can be also sometimes a bit frustrating for the ones who don't believe in it. But once you really have your hand in it, you have this kind of a state of flow where, you bounce back ideas, you try things, you look at, how they come back to you, and then you keep on moving forward. So it's been pretty organic, pretty interesting to go through that. And there's also this kind of a unexpected element, right? Like I know that most shots were started. I had something pretty clear in my mind, how I wanted the kind of lighting and everything. So not only it was fairly easy to get to that place, versus sometimes I would divert from that because it would give me something slightly different than what I had in mind, but it turns out it's better.
Yeah.
And so there's also like this kind of a process of, accepting the unexpected, which I think is pretty amazing, using flow.
And maybe some kind of non-linear exploration as well, right?
Yeah.
There is this back and forth, and sometimes you're going down a tangent and exploring that and coming up. You each generate hundreds of shots as you're putting your films together. Maybe talk a little bit about how much iteration is needed and a little bit more behind the scenes of what that actually looks like.
Yeah, I actually like to call it a dance between art and technology.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I like to position it. But and actually it's thousands, right? if someone like Junie and Henry, I remember talking to Henry, it's like thousands of generations. And I think the exciting thing is you could feel like you're going down a rabbit hole, but you never feel like you lose control of your story. And I think that's what's the most exciting thing, because you can explore and you can't have happy accidents. And I think someone who's been a filmmaker, been on sets, happy accidents are some of the best things that you can discover as an artist.
Yep.
It takes your story to new heights. And I just love that. I love that it's called flow, because you really just feel like you're flowing down a river and you have this creative freedom, and you can almost see all these different things that are floating with you on that river, and you can kind of jump.
Instant adventure as well.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So speaking of a dance between, us and the AI, we're also dancing between the technologists and people that are creating this tool. You were all instrumental in creating flow and helping shape it. What was that experience like? What was it like to collaborate with Googlers? And maybe Henry, start with you.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. I mean, it's been extremely collaborative, like, which is great, right? Like, you have this chance to be directly a team member. And we never had, I'm speaking for myself, I think it was similar to you guys, but never had the feeling I was on the outside. I was literally working the team, giving feedbacks on what's working, what's not working, what could be better. And so not only is it great to be heard, but also I think it's a great initiative to be able to include people who are going to use those tools first, right? We've seen so much top-down creation in the past where like tools are given to the market and then it's not adopted or it's not used the right way because no one actually really tested those in actual waters.
No.
So that's been pretty great. Everyone has been amazing so far. So that's cool.
Yeah. And what was the experience like for you, Junie?
I would say I learned so much for Googlers because I am more standing on a creative perspective and they are more standing on the technology perspective, and they just teach me so much. Then I could learn to combine these two kind of knowledge together to create my shot. Actually, I just learned so much from that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's mutual, right? I think, I think the technologists, the Googlers learned a lot from you guys as well, because sometimes when you start building technology, we think it needs to be a certain shape. And then we talk to people that are going to be using it and we're like, oh, actually, there are things that are missing or things that we need to go maybe a little bit deeper on. So I want to talk a little bit about risk taking, because with AI tools, suddenly you can go and explore down different paths, tell stories you might not have told in the past. So what does it open up for you in terms of risks you might not have traditionally taken with, previous storytelling tools? What's AI opened up for each of you?
Yeah, for me, I think it becomes a real personal interaction. And it's interesting to say that because you're dealing with technology, and we hear people always talk about human side and technology side, but I honestly feel like there's a symbiotic creation happening with the technology, because you're always in control as the human, as the storyteller, as the artist. And I think that's very important, that you want to work with partners and you want to use tools that you feel like you're always in the driver's seat as an artist. And I think the way that the engineers develop flow, it does exactly that. It allows you to always feel like you're in control of your destiny, but still allowing you to be free and play and make mistakes and not be, I say this thing, I don't want to be precious with my prompts. Like I want to be able to talk how I talk, because I'm a writer, so I'll naturally write like I write screenplays. But then sometimes I just want to be like, yo, tell me, what happens now? And then see what happens. And I think that's okay to have a little bit of play.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Junie?
I would say it just overturned my workflow and inspired me to experiment more. I would say the short film with AI is not going to have an ending, because when I just keep creating it, it just don't stop. I will just so concentrated. Yeah.
And Henry, would you have told that story in the past? Has this opened up new types of stories that you can tell?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think it's two things. One, I never thought I would actually be here one day, right? Like I like to say that AI kind of opened a way for creators which, were born in unexpected places. It can, democratize the entire process. And I think that's already interesting. Like I'm a designer by trade, so I was already in the creative industry, so I was already lucky in that front, but I now regularly see people coming up with great films and using those tools, but they just chose different ways of life. So that's one thing which I think is already great. The second one is indeed, obviously the cost. So using tools like Flow, what's great is that you can suddenly tap into, I would say pretty expensive shots, like things that you can try, like CGI, looking, particle, whatever. And not only, it would have been a big team, a lot of budget, a lot of time, but also once again, it could come back to you afterwards and giving you the feeling it's not right. So there's a chance to visualize things which could have been extremely costly to run in a extremely natural way. I think that's been pretty interesting. So working on my film, I love animation. I went into a lot of explorations of aesthetics and things which would have been extremely complicated to do because you need a CGI artist and you need an illustrator and so just having this chance to jump between universes and world and aesthetics in a way which is frictionless is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Dave, in your case, you had explosions happening in your film, and that would have been so challenging to do if you wanted to just go and experiment with an idea, right? So that's kind of opened up maybe new possibilities in that type of storytelling for you as well.
Exactly. Like you're able to bring your characters to life in new ways. You're able to world build. I actually think because of the tool, I was in there almost rewriting the story and the film over and over again in the edit because I could go back to Flow and say, you know what? It'd be cool if you saw the reverse angle and an explosion happens on a ship, or it'd be cool if there was a car like flying off of a hill or something like that. So just that's that free nature of creativity where you can jump back and forth. I think is really cool.
Yep. Okay, so I would love for you guys to share a little advice for people that are just starting to use Flow. What are some tips and tricks you might want to kind of give them, and maybe something that you learned as well along the journey?
Yeah. For me, just don't be afraid to share your work, even if they're little tests. I think one thing I feel like even I was this way, very early on. I was very precious with what I shared. I was very precious with the way I prompted, and finding myself just going in there and kind of just letting go. And I don't want to say trying to break the tool, but essentially try to break the tool. Like go in there, try different prompts, try different camera angles. If you're a filmmaker, use different types of film techniques and film language, like camera lenses, camera angles, different types of lighting. It could understand all of that because it's built off the back of the LLMs and the Gemini system. So you can really, really, really fine tune your prompts as a filmmaker and an artist. But you could also go in there and put in a few words and get something magical at the same time.
Yeah. What about you, Junie?
My advice will be exploring and experimenting more with different kinds of new things. Take the risks and break the traditional boundary. Because as a creative, we should bring more meaning to our lives.
I don't think it's tied directly to Flow in itself, but it's more for the process. I know some people are still on the fence with using AI for plenty of reasons.
Right.
And I think it's more the idea that there's still this belief that it's a slot machine and you're going to get sometimes something good. And what's been pretty amazing using Flow in this process is that we were indeed generating a lot, not because we had things we couldn't use, but more because we had an abundance of elements we could actually use. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's also sharpening your sense of taste and vision, because you're shifting from just creating to also curating content, because obviously you see a lot. And so I would argue that anyone starting this should, keep on, educating themselves and watching things and feeding and checking art, and also embrace who they are as a person, because the more personal it is, and I guess the more interesting it gets.
That's right. And at the end of the day, it comes to the story as well, right? And so it's not necessarily just about the aesthetics, but storytelling and refining your craft as well, right? So if you had a crystal ball, how do you imagine the AI transforming filmmaking, indie filmmaking, more professional filmmaking? What do you imagine?
I think what we're really experiencing here is kind of a new revolution in indie filmmaking, which I don't think a lot of people are noticing right now, but I think they soon will. Because at the first time, you don't have to ask for permission to tell your movie, to tell your story. And that's like the indie spirit. Like we filmmakers in general, all we want to do is just tell our stories. And sometimes, in the past, you couldn't because of where you grew up, your financial situation, or you didn't have connections in the business. And right now, you don't need any of that. All you need is your creativity and your will to be open and explore your ideas.
Yep. What does your crystal ball say, Junie?
I would say it's giving more opportunity to the truly talented people to be seen, because right now we don't have the limitation of traditional budget, resource, and materials. Then what we can just creating everything we want. Yeah.
What do you see happening?
And I believe in soft skills. I do think the tech is going to eventually even out. Like, I think as humans, we start already see the ceiling towards what we can recognize as being AI generated or not. It starts to just feel like reality. So when we reach that point, what's left? And I think it's soft skills is going to be indeed the story you want to tell, the taste you have, then the identity you have. And this is going to matter more, I think, than whatever tech you have, because, that access is much easier.
That's right. It's getting democratized in some way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. You are incredible trailblazers. Your films are stunning. They're poetic. I really appreciate your time and your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is awesome.